Snowed in today, so it's a good day to talk about shadow work. And really, I just want to kind of share some of my own process by things that I really go through. And a lot of people have different ideas of shadow work and what it entails, but at the core, it's you dealing with your own shit, right? It's you dealing with your own shit, whether it's a lesson that you got to learn or whether it's something that you need to address and stop doing. But shadow work goes much deeper than just identifying like a situation, like where trauma's stored. I talk a lot about anatomy and how trauma's stored in different places, and the fascia is the interface, and that's how it gets routed to different places because it's all energetic based. And most of my videos go really deep into the mechanics of how that works. And this one, I just want to talk about like some of my own shadow work. Because when you first start really getting into your own shadows, it's fucking hard because it's parts of yourself they feel abandoned, they feel neglected, they feel insecure, they feel shameful. And when we start to face parts of ourselves that fall into those categories, it feels terrifying because it's probably the first time you've ever faced those parts of yourself. I know when I started, I spent 8 months in a townhouse crying every single day because it was the first time I'd ever felt emotions. And I allowed myself to feel them. And see, here's the part that you can't skip. You can't shortcut the process, but also don't let people tell you that trauma is some long-term healing thing. If you stop looking at trauma as trauma and start looking at it as, just evolution points, the perspective is different. So you're going to feel different about it. And I do this work. I walk people through this all the time. And our results are not what any psychiatrist would ever tell you is possible on this journey. But it's mechanics. It's about understanding the way that we're made, the way that our bodies work, the way that it handles things like trauma, and how to handle your own emotions. Because emotional intelligence was a good start, but it's not that, right? We don't learn to poker face right through our emotions. That's not intelligent at all, right? That's intelligent masking. But so it's been a pretty lonely few years for me personally. And right now, while I know I'm at the tail end of it, I've been in my car. I've pretty much been displaced since I woke up. Here, there, I lived in all my traumatic situations, my family's, it's been a wild road. It has not been fun at all. I don't know if I can even trust my higher self because it chose this. I'm down here doing this, and it's just man, bad decisions. It feels all the way around. But when you start to realize what shadow work is at the core, just working through yourself and these emotions, you start to realize a lot of it was kind of silly, the way that we'll feel insecure about something, and it's always tied to an emotion. So being alone, there's definitely been times where days I just would cry in the car. I had no one to call. I don't have anyone to pick up the phone and call. I just started meeting people. I just started getting back out into the real world even. I'm realizing that about myself because I have been in isolation for a while. And I went hard. I studied, I worked. All I did was work on myself and then build shit as I was learning it. But, shadow work is where you get really deep within the emotions, why it's causing it, because you have to be able to identify the pattern, the real root cause. So I found myself, like wanting to try to rekindle relationships that I knew better on. Then I had to like look at it like, okay, why, knowing this person is not right for me, knowing the situation, why would I still go back? Okay. On one hand, like I'm lonely. Cool. So that's like a real thing. I've got lonely going on. And then another aspect of it could be that, as weird as it sounds, like I haven't had a witness to my becoming. Like, so everyone that was around me, like while I was evolving, changing, they were unable to give me the proper mirror, and they just could never see past the old version that I buried. And yes, I buried the old version literally through ritual in my ex's backyard. It was a wild ritual, but like I do the work. When I talk about the shit, I do it. Like I do the work, and you have to do the work, right? And when you get into shadow work, you have to start looking at those little parts of yourself and finding those little things that are kind of silly on the surface. You know, when I got down to it, and it happens in layers, like I'll get a little bit of the lesson here, a little bit of it there, but then when I get down to the nitty gritty of it, you know, like there was this part of me that just wanted the recognition from people who like knew who I was and watched me change, and they could not give it to me, right? And so that like tied into a big part of my loneliness. But see, now we're getting into the nitty gritty of like the shadows, and really in this case it's just why things make you act the way that you do. So now I'm in a place of like, okay, I understand why that's important to me. Why else would it be important? Well, I'm a Leo moon. I'm an Aries sun, Leo moon, Sagittarius rising, a lot of fire in my chart. But a Leo moon is tied in with my emotions, and it's not that I feed and need other people to tell me I'm good enough, like I know who I am, but that is a part of me that like I thrive on, right? Like if I do something and other people appreciate it, compliment it, like that makes me feel good. That's part of my Leo moon. So now we're getting into the nitty gritties of like, okay, I'm not trying to fucking change who I am, but I do need to understand my own blueprints so that I can work within them and understand myself, how I operate. And once I am fully aligned with that, which, you know, I'm pretty aligned with myself, like the world around you will shift. Like you will meet people who are in alignment with with themselves in certain ways. You will weed out the people that are not in alignment. And even if those are people that was family or people that you love, like the more alignment you become within yourself, the more you're turning that radio dial and they cannot hear you and you cannot hear them. And so that was another weird part about it for me, because I know I'm walking through these doors. I know I've walked out of the old timeline, and I know there's nothing back there for me. Like I know, like I've tried, like it's me and my son. My son is the only thing that survived the fire, and the fire of purification, the black flame. And once you realize like what's true because it survived the fire, like that's all that can move forward with you. And sometimes saying goodbye and, you know, just walking away from things is the only way. And, you know, this is a very personal decision. Like there's no right or wrong to do it, you know. Like if I could if I could make my relationships like fine from the past, that would be fine with me, except they can't see me and appreciate me as I am now. Like they're never gonna let that old person who I barely fucking remember go. Like that's the version they know, because they can't evolve themselves past the version that knew that version, you know. And it is intricate in that way. But knowing these things will help you when you're going through your own path, kind of seeing them play out so you don't feel so like, man, am I doing this right or wrong? Yeah, I mean, like sometimes those goodbyes are literally people tuning out of a frequency that they don't exist in. And if they don't exist in your frequency, meaning, you know, they themselves are not aligned with themselves in that way, then they will not show up on yours. But I just wanted to share a little bit of shadow work. This is, something like I'm really going through right now, and I always face my shadow work head on. I always will get in touch directly with the source of my issues, so everything that I just told you, the person involved who was making me feel that way, who I was allowing myself to let me feel that way, she didn't do anything. She was the first one I went to. So I got it off my chest, said what I needed to say, and so now we move forward. Now, I could look at this as man, I've got this trauma and I'm hurt. Or I could say, bro, this is a fucking evolution point. It is a part where I finally went down far enough into myself to where I can see the real root of it. How it plays out in real life, the people are just placeholders. The things are placeholders. It's the energy behind it that controls the shit. So this is why it's so important to find the patterns. Because once you know the pattern, then you can direct it. Then it's like spiritual Aikido, right? You want to be able to move with it and use the flow of what's there, but you have to be able to identify it. You have to be willing to look at yourself at that level, even if it seems silly, even if it seems shameful. That thing that you were crazy embarrassed of and want to take to your grave, that's fine. Take it to your grave. But you have to make peace with it in some way in here. It's not about, that's between you and you. But none of this, look, if this was a game of morality, I would not be in front of you right now, right? And that was actually something I struggled with at first, was feeling why me? I felt like the fuck up, the one who couldn't get his life together, and why me was a struggle at first. But the truth is, why not me? And why not you? Because those of us who have been through shit are the most equipped to help others go through it. Nobody needs a fucking therapist who ain't ever been through no shit. And nobody needs a fucking therapist that has their own therapist. If your therapist cannot help you, if your therapist cannot help themselves enough to not need therapy, anyway, I'll start ranting if I get off on that tangent. So, archetype13.com.